The day's proceedings, unlike previous ones, actually started on an orderly note. Perhaps the judge had ordered for a beefing up of the security, or perhaps it was as a result of the alarm raised by the Al-Mustapha family expressing fears about his security. But the officers were on ground as early as 7 a.m. They took up positions on the staircase leading to the courtroom of presiding judge Mojisola Dada, checking ID cards before allowing access to only those they considered had business in the court. Despite that, the courtroom was still packed full, with many others, however, standing and sitting outside. Major Hamza Al-Mustapha arrives at about 9:50 a.m. and is called into the dock at about 10:30 a.m. First, his counsel Olalekan Ojo brings to the notice of the court what he calls mendacious and inaccurate reporting of the court proceedings, which he says is capable of interfering with the course of justice. Justice Dada calms his fears by telling him that she doesn't read the papers. After this, the counsel informs the court that he had filed a notice of appeal to challenge the ruling of the court, delivered on the no-case submission earlier filed by the defense. The court adjourns that matter till Tuesday. Preliminary issues over, the defendant moves into the witness box and begins to answer questions put to him by the Solicitor General of Lagos State, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Pedro Lawal. Major Al-Mustapha narrated to the court how he joined the army in 1980 as a cadet officer. He had his primary and secondary school education in Yobe State, northeastern Nigeria. Between 1983 and 1988, he rose from being a second lieutenant to major and was posted to work with General Sani Abacha in 1985 when the late dictator was the chief of army staff. The former CSO said it was not correct to say that General Abacha sacked the interim national government of Chief Ernest Shoneko, but instead a consensus of military and civilian people came together to change the course of history, which saw the exit of the interim government and General Abacha becoming head of state. He acknowledged that General Abacha was misunderstood, as he was the most hated head of state, with the strongest opposition to his government coming even from within the military. The major also explained the activities of the strike force set up under the late head of state. He refuted the claims that the 75-member group was used to muscle opposition, especially the NADECO, but was instead used to protect the seat of power, as it was a defensive rather than an offensive force. A member of the strike force, Sergeant Rogers, had testified in previous court sittings that he shot the late Kudirat, for which Major Al-Mustapha is standing trial. The former CSO denied giving the order, insisting instead that the witness was induced to testify against him. Although the major admitted that attempted murders and the murders of certain persons happened under the regime of General Abacha, Major Al-Mustapha denied knowledge of the attempted murder of the publisher of Guardian newspapers, Mr. Alex Ibu, that of late NADECO chieftain Pa Abraham Adesoyan, and that of former sports minister Mr. Isaac Pobeni. He also denied any involvement in the murder of late Kudirat Abiola, that of Pa Alfred Iwane, and one Alaja Suliat Adedeji, an Ibadan-based politician, maintaining that, like other people, he only read the news in the papers. It is however his testimony that after he heard of the late Kudirat's murder, he visited the late Chief Abiola in detention to commiserate with him, taking along a Quran and a diary. Major Al-Mustapha went on to challenge the prosecution to ask the court to order the Abdusalam administration to release the diary Chief Abiola kept, as it would show light to some of the darkness in the case and serve as good material for the country. The cross-examination continues on Tuesday. In continuation of his cross-examination, Major Hamza Al-Mustapha said contrary to his former testimony, it was not correct to say it was Southwest leaders who visited the former head of state, General Abdusalam Abubakar, on the 8th of July after Chief MKO Abiola's murder. The former CSO admitted that it was instead the elders of the opposition group, NADECO. He also denied that he was physically present at the meeting when money was shared to induce them to jettison the June 12 mandate. According to him, he was only aware that some money was ordered to be withdrawn at the Central Bank of Nigeria by General Abubakar on the day they visited. This was evidenced by a statement he tendered as exhibit in court. Major Al-Mustapha, however, reaffirmed his earlier testimony that the late Justice Minister, Chief Bola Ige, was compensated for the role he played at the time. The proceedings, however, came to an abrupt end when the prosecution tried to tender a confessional statement allegedly made by Major Al-Mustapha in 1999 before the Oputa panel. The defense strongly opposed it, insisting that it ought to have been tendered before the prosecution closed its case. Before that, however, Justice Mojisola Dada granted an application filed by the defense team seeking to challenge our ruling of July 14 on a no-case submission made by them. Proceedings continue on Wednesday with more arguments on the admissibility of the confessional statement, a possible ruling and further cross-examination. The court gave its ruling after submissions made by the Lagos State Solicitor General, Mr. Lawal Pedro, on the need to draw the attention of the witness, Major Hamza Al-Mustapha, to some contradictions in the statement and his evidence before the court. The statement was made way back in 1999 before the Special Investigation Panel, SIP, which investigated the killing of Alhaja Kudrat Abiola and all other atrocities committed under the late General Sani Abacha's regime. The defense team, led by Mr. Olalekan Ojo, had argued that questions on the statement could not be put to the witness, especially as the prosecution had failed to put it into evidence before the close of its case. The prosecution counsel countered by saying that there was no law prescribing any time limit to tender relevant documents in a proceeding. He also argued that there are exceptions to the provisions of the Evidence Act, which stipulates that extrajudicial statement of a witness may not be admitted in evidence. The arguments went back and forth, but in her ruling, Justice Mojisola Dada noted that the witness made 28 statements in all, and the one in controversy was identified by him as being made under serious torture. The judge also held that the statement is not a confessional statement of the murder of the late Kudrat Abiola, and so it could not be compulsorily tendered. On the question as to whether the witness could be cross-examined on the statement, the court, relying on Sections 209 of the Evidence Act 1999, held that though it is not in evidence, the prosecution is at liberty to cross-examine the witness on the contradictory portion of the statement so as to give him an opportunity to explain it. Despite objections from the defense counsel, the court, at the instance of the prosecution counsel, adjourned further proceedings in the matter. Now, in line with that ruling, when the court reconvenes on Thursday, the prosecution counsel, Mr. Lawal Pedro, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is expected to cross-examine the witness, Major Hamza Al-Mustapha, on some portions of his testimony which he finds contradictory. On Wednesday, the court had only granted leave to the prosecuting team to cross-examine Major Hamza Al-Mustapha with a statement in order to draw his attention to some contradictions the prosecution alleged in it and the testimony he is presently given in court. The former chief security officer had initially claimed that the statement was made under severe physical and psychological torture from the Special Investigation Panel, the torture which he says was extended to his immediate family, his brother and his late father, who he saw only twice in 13 years. To save their lives, he says he succumbed and wrote down the statement as dictated. At the resumed hearing of the case on Thursday, however, he outrightly denied making the statement, insisting that it was an SIP statement and they only put his name on it. At this point, the prosecution sought to tender it as exhibits so the court could admit it and determine the authenticity of his claim. Despite strong objections from the defense team, the court held that since the document is not a confessional statement, it is admissible as exhibits. Since the defendant had made a retraction, Justice Mojisola Dada held that the prosecution can only ask questions on it to point out contradictions in his testimony. After this, Major Al-Mustapha read out the statement in court. Among other things, the statement restated his earlier testimony that he did not order the killing of Kudrat Abiola and only gave his personal arms to the prosecution witness, Sergeant Rogers, for the purpose of cleaning it. The prosecution also asked questions seeking clarifications to inconsistencies in his account of how he met the second accused person, Alhaji Lateef Shofalao, and also his relationship with Muhammad Abacha, son of the late dictator. The prosecution later sought to tender a copy of the Supreme Court judgment which freed Muhammad Abacha, who was initially charged as an accessory to the murder of the late Kudrat. The defense objected to the tendering of the judgment through the witness who was not the maker. Justice Dada has adjourned further arguments on its admissibility till Monday, the 15th of August. Shola Adeko, Channels Television News.
Yes. But I want to ask you directly, because page 250 and 251 gives you what you call the true account of General Sani Abacha's death. How did he die?
Well, you see, a lot of the reason I brought out all kinds of stories by different people, including Al-Mustapha, is because, you know, they were not aware. They don't know the story. Or they were looking at the periphery where they felt this might have, you know, caused the death or stuff like that. I know that Mustafa is not a doctor to say that Arafat's bodyguard shook the president and that was what killed him. He's not a doctor. He doesn't know what killed the guy, you know.
So if he didn't die of India prostitutes or Apple. How did he really die?
Well, the thing is that when you read the book, you are going to see it there. You know, they spelled out. But generally, I can tell you this: the girl who was with him when he died, I interrogated her here in Lagos.
It was his girlfriend, or the
his girlfriend's sister.
Okay, so I saw that and I was a little bit confused that Abacha had a girlfriend with an Igbo name. The name is withheld in this book.
Yes.
Arrived at Asura Guest House from Lincoln Hilton Hotel.
Yes.
With a younger sister.
Yes.
So she left and the younger sister stayed back.
Yes.
And then was taken with the younger sister. And after a short while, the girlfriend returned to the hotel, leaving the pharmacist alone with the head of state.
Yeah.
So when you spoke to her, what did she say?
The first thing she told me was that she didn't kill him. You know, I sent my guys to go and bring her. Because Abuja called me. I was not aware. Abuja called me and told me that our headquarters, that go to this address, there is a girl there, arrest her, bring her to the office, interrogate her, and then bring her to Abuja immediately. And I sent my guys to go there, and they arrested her and brought her. When she came into my office, the first thing she said, I did not kill him.
But she knew he was dead before he left.
She found out that he was dead. She found out he was not dead before she was in that room with him.
Yeah.
But later she discovered that I believe strongly that it must be a heart attack.
Did you believe her?
I have to believe her because she doesn't have any reason to lie to me. You know, and I didn't give her the situation to be scared or not to be, because, you know, her account is the true eyewitness account of what actually happened. Nobody was with them.